A warm welcome to everyone joining this conference. Today we begin the 40th topic of our self-knowledge course, an essential lesson in which we will explore the profound meaning of sacrifice for humanity. Sacrifice for humanity is not something optional. It is a key component for real inner advancement. The purpose of this conference is to help us understand the importance of the third factor of the revolution of consciousness and to deepen our appreciation of it. Throughout this course, we have seen that to achieve the revolution of our consciousness, to awaken it fully, and reach the intimate self-realization of our being, three fundamental factors are required. The first is psychological death, the work that allows us to free the 97% of our consciousness currently trapped within egoic conditioning. It is also what enables the purification of the sexual creative energy. The second is spiritual birth, which makes possible the creation of the existential bodies of the being through the practice of suprasex. And the third factor, sacrifice for humanity, is the one that allows us to dissolve egotism within ourselves and to awaken real love. For love is the only law of the absolute, and it is this third factor that we will study in depth today. What do we mean by sacrifice for humanity? Sacrifice for humanity is the selfless act of sharing this knowledge with others. Any help we offer to someone is valuable, of course. But above all, forms of external or physical assistance, which may only improve a person's life temporarily, there is a superior form of help, transmitting the knowledge that allows a human being to liberate themselves. It is to give another person the key to free themselves from the inner causes of their suffering, from the roots of all their conflicts, and from the mechanical cycle of evolution and involution. It is to offer them the possibility of integrating with their own divine being. The word sacrifice comes from sacred office, and this sacred office is the office of wisdom, directly related to the force of our inner Father. We know that within the small percentage of free consciousness we possess, there are three forces. These forces awaken and incarnate within us through the practice of the three factors. When we die psychologically, we incarnate the force of the sun, the force of will and justice. When we are born spiritually, we incarnate the force of the Holy Spirit, the force of love. And when we sacrifice ourselves for humanity, when we transmit knowledge to others, we incarnate the force of the Father, the force of wisdom. The office of the Father is teaching, the act of giving wisdom. Therefore, when we guide our brothers and sisters of humanity toward the path of intimate self-realization, we are truly incarnating the force of the Father. It is clear that most of humanity doesn't know why it lives. People have no idea why they were born. No one has ever explained it to them. They live in a hypnotic state, fascinated by the world and by their personality, chasing subjective objectives, while their consciousness remains completely asleep. Once we discover the purpose of life, once we receive the tools to fulfill it and begin to leave behind ignorance and suffering, we gain a responsibility. The responsibility of teaching our brothers and sisters what the purpose of existence truly is. We must explain why we are born, what the possibilities of the being are, and how each person can reunite with their own being, always respecting their free will, of course. All human beings come into this physical world with the same purpose: to know ourselves. Just as we once received this knowledge and experienced its transformative power, there are many others with the same longing for truth who still don't know the path of self-knowledge. And it is precisely there that love begins to awaken in us, when we genuinely feel the desire to help others find their own inner path. However, when we hear the word sacrifice, we often associate it with suffering. This happens because we are profoundly egoistic, and this egoism makes it difficult for us to act for the benefit of others. The ego, where egoism comes from, will always resist any attempt we make to serve. In reality, sacrificing ourselves for others should be something natural and simple. Yet, when we decide to share this knowledge with someone, the task suddenly becomes complicated. And this is because within us there is not merely one egoist, but millions. Millions of egoic aspects, each pulling in a different direction. Each of these egoic states has its own particular interests and is solely concerned with the fulfillment of its desires. And that is precisely what separates us from one another: the ego, the self, the myself. Within us, we also find the ego of fear, not a single fear, but millions of fears that prevent us from serving selflessly. We fear what others might say, how they might judge us, whether they will accept us or reject us. We think, what if I make a mistake? And so, countless fears hold us back and stop us from developing love. Love is always expressed through actions, through the works we perform for the benefit of others. The absence of love, which is the offspring of fear, is revealed in our omissions, those moments when we could have done something good for someone, but we chose not to. When we begin to sacrifice ourselves for humanity, we automatically begin to de-egoistize ourselves. Let us reflect on this. To de-egoistize means to stop being selfish, to share with others what we possess. If we genuinely want to progress on this path, we must eliminate the ego and its egoism within us. And the key to dissolving this egoism is precisely sacrifice for humanity, sharing what is most valuable within us. When we begin to reflect on what we truly possess, on what our real heritage is, we quickly see that the only thing we genuinely have is our knowledge, the wisdom that allows us to revolutionize ourselves, liberate ourselves, and self-realize in a single lifetime. If we take time to value what we have received, we recognize that this knowledge could not be bought with all the gold in the world. Therefore, when we share it with others, we stop being selfish. We offer people the possibility of also achieving their own self-realization. On the internal level, every effort we make to bring this knowledge to others has immense value. However, there are certain conditions for transmitting this knowledge, and it is important that we take them seriously. The first condition is that we must deliver this knowledge freely. We should never charge, neither directly nor indirectly, for teaching it. If there is a charge, then it is no longer sacrifice. It becomes business. And that is the mistake that every religion has made. If we begin collecting donations, contributions, tithes, or anything of the sort, sooner or later the objective becomes distorted, and the original purpose of the teaching is lost. The second condition is that this knowledge must be given to everyone, without making any distinction of sex, race, social class, wealth, or anything else. All human beings are brothers and sisters, and we all come with the same purpose. Since our consciousness is asleep, we cannot truly know who is mature enough to assimilate this knowledge. Sometimes the person we least expect to be ready is the person who needs it the most. For that reason, we must offer this knowledge to everyone. And to do so, we will need to eliminate many eyes within us that hold prejudices against others. The third condition is to always respect the free will of those to whom we give the knowledge. From now on, we must understand that we should not try to convince anyone. We can inform, we can explain, but we must not beg or pressure. Those who are not prepared will simply not begin the path, and everyone must convince themselves through their own experience. And the fourth condition is to deliver this knowledge in its pure form, without adding anything that does not belong to it. These teachings consist of the three factors, nothing more. We must not modify them. We are asleep, and therefore we cannot alter what awakened beings have established. Each clue, each teaching in each lecture was arranged for the sole purpose of helping us awaken consciousness. We should not remove anything, nor hide anything, because doing so would adulterate the knowledge. Nor should we mix it with other doctrines or systems. If we mix it, then it stops being this knowledge and becomes something entirely different. So these are the basic conditions when we sacrifice ourselves for humanity: giving this knowledge purely, giving it freely, sharing it with everyone without distinction, and always respecting the free will of each person. We can clearly see that sharing this knowledge with others is a responsibility. But let's reflect more deeply on some of the reasons why we must sacrifice ourselves for humanity. We mentioned before the importance of overcoming selfishness and fear. Fear keeps us vibrating at the lowest levels, and selfishness isolates us from one another. If we want to rise to higher levels of consciousness, we must begin to vibrate with the law of love. And love is expressed through action. Love is not found in telling someone we love them, nor in the pleasant feelings we may have toward another person. Love is found in the conscious work we do to help others. This is a work of love, and only love can fuel a work of love. If we don't perform conscious actions for the benefit of others, we don't awaken love. And every spark of consciousness that we free through psychological death must awaken love and must learn to serve. Another important reason for sacrificing ourselves for humanity is that it places divine law in our favor. Those who love, those who strive to help others receive internal help. For what we give, we receive. If we want wisdom, we must give wisdom. If we want to awaken consciousness, we must help others awaken their consciousness. On the other hand, whoever has something and refuses to give even a little of what they have, loses even that little. Once we possess knowledge, we also have a responsibility to share it. The selfish act of having the light and hiding it from others generates karma, and that karma is blindness. Blindness is often the karma of those who had knowledge but concealed it. Therefore, the light is hidden from them, because the light represents wisdom. Another very important reason to sacrifice ourselves for humanity is that through sacrifice we earn the merits of the heart that allow us to advance in this work. Sacrifice helps us progress more rapidly in the creation of the existential bodies of the being. A person who sacrifices themselves for humanity can be born spiritually 10 times faster than someone who lives selfishly. Sacrifice also accelerates the work of psychological death, because each of our defects carries its own karmic debt. If we want to eliminate them, we must pay what they owe. By generating dharma through service to others, we avoid getting stuck in the process of eliminating a defect. As we saw in the conference on the laws of karma and dharma, every time we allow our defects to act instead of our consciousness, we generate karma. Our eyes always push us toward error, toward harming ourselves and others. And if we truly want to achieve liberation in this very existence, we must pay the karma from 7 lifetimes. Therefore, when we help others, we earn dharma, cosmic money, with which we can pay our karmic debts through love, so that we don't have to pay them through pain, illness, crises, or suffering. Furthermore, when we sacrifice ourselves for others, we receive strength and merits that support us in different practices. We gain the ability to achieve astral projection more easily, to access certain places or conduct certain investigations in the astral world, to enter deeper states of meditation, to reach comprehension, to perform retrospections, and so on. Sacrifice also gives us the merits needed to deepen our understanding of this knowledge. The effort we make to study and comprehend these teachings, and the effort we make to teach them, helps us understand them more profoundly each time, and prevents us from forgetting them. Thus, we grow deeper in the knowledge as we awaken our consciousness. Sacrifice for humanity also prevents us from losing strength and falling into entropy. We might think that studying these topics once is enough, but in reality, every time we revisit a topic, we see it from a higher level of understanding, and our being reveals new aspects that we were not able to comprehend before. For this reason, this knowledge never becomes routine. The deeper we apply it and verify it in our lives, the deeper our understanding becomes, and with the knowledge that our being transmits to us, we nourish our soul. It is interesting to reflect on that well-known phrase from the prayer called the Lord's Prayer, "Give us this day our daily bread." In the internal worlds, bread symbolizes wisdom. So when we say our daily bread, we are referring to the wisdom that descends each day from the Father to nourish our heart. Thus, when we ask, "Give us our daily bread," we are asking for wisdom, because we are not sustained only by physical nourishment, but also by the manifestations that come from the higher worlds. The pineal and pituitary glands, through a secret channel and a very special doorway, can transmit the wisdom of the Father to the heart. But this must be felt. It must be lived. Let's now explore the different ways to practice sacrifice for humanity. Sacrifice includes 2 main aspects. One is fishing, and the other is teaching. Fishing means looking for people who are interested in receiving this knowledge. We do this when we engage in any form of outreach, whether virtual or physical. It includes sharing the conferences, creating or distributing promotional material, sharing what instructors produce to invite people, speaking with others about the knowledge, and guiding them to the places where they can receive the lectures if they are interested. Teaching, on the other hand, involves preparing ourselves. studying the topics of the course so that we can become instructors and deliver the lectures either in person or virtually. The path usually begins by receiving the lectures and inviting others to attend. We talk about this knowledge with our acquaintances, and later with as many people as we can. We then begin to study the topics more deeply. The lectures are based on a book that synthesizes all the conferences. We can gladly share it with those who show a genuine interest in studying these teachings more thoroughly and who feel the desire to eventually teach them as well. At that point, it becomes important to go through a preparation or training process to begin teaching directly. Afterwards, we start giving the lectures, either virtually or in person, in a meeting space. In this way, we expand the transmission of knowledge, first locally, and then to more places, even reaching other countries. And the most important form of sacrifice is awakening our consciousness, so that our sacrifice becomes increasingly conscious. A wise man once said that the greatest gift we can give to humanity is our own transformation. Let's reflect on this. The essential point is that once you decide to teach, no matter where, everything you teach becomes strength. And we need that strength in order to continue advancing. We can observe that many people in the world carry a spiritual longing, an inner need to find a path that leads them to self-knowledge in a direct and practical way. Yet, although many come into contact with this teaching, only a few remain and truly practice it. Why does this happen? Because even though in the physical world this knowledge is offered completely free of charge, in the internal worlds the right to receive it and to keep it is extremely costly. In the internal worlds, the access to knowledge is paid with dharma, in other words, with love. When we lack dharma, when we lack the merits needed to continue advancing, we lose strength. This teaching stops resonating with us, it stops making sense, and we end up being absorbed once again by ordinary life, or we start searching for some other path that promises an easier method to reach heaven. Why do so many arrive, and why do so few remain? Because they have nothing to sustain themselves inside the bus, which, in the astral plane, symbolizes the place where the conferences are received. Without that inner support, they end up leaving sooner or later. Therefore, the way to remain in this knowledge and to advance in it is to begin doing, as little or as much as we can, something to bring this teaching to others. It means sharing with others the light we are receiving internally, which is our comprehension. In doing this, that light grows more and more until we eventually become completely enlightened. And well, this concludes today's conference. I hope it has helped you to deepen your understanding of the importance of the third factor for the revolution of consciousness, and to see clearly that love is revealed through our actions, while the lack of love, which is rooted in fear, becomes evident through our omissions. As always, I invite you to the next conference, where we will teach two very interesting practices. One is the dance of the dervishes, and the other is the transmutation of cosmic forces. These practices are concrete tools that will help us perform better in the esoteric work. Don't miss this fascinating topic. Until next time.